You know how I said 1X was my favorite standalone killer? If you had to ask me what my favorite pairing was, or what two characters went together perfectly, for me that would be John and Jane Doe by a fucking mile. Compared to my other Forsaken Superstar videos, I'll be mixing up the order for this video because I want this video to be special, as I've been waiting to make this video for basically a year at this point. For starters, I'll be covering the lore first, then the milestones, both legacy and current, and then I'll end off with the mechanics, and a very special last man standing. I want this video to be kind of a quality turning point for the channel, as it was kind of a very slow rise up until this point, with the only big jump being between Builderman and Shaletsky in my opinion. I also want to start leaning more towards the cinematic side, especially with Forsaken Superstar Interlude. That's why Recall a Hollow Hearts episode is taking fucking eternity to come out, because unlike I Had to Face Laws, which was about like half the video, this is gonna be the majority of the video. It's gonna be like 20% information, 80% cinematic. And that's kind of a direction I want to lean towards, because I have a lot of fun doing that. I really, really do. I have a lot of fun being on more of the cinematic side, as I get to be a lot more creative, rather with the information sections, which is just talking and images and text. And then sometimes I zoom in. But regardless, I have a lot of fun doing this, and it's about time I start having a lot more fun, and also getting to show off my editing skills by leaning more towards the cinematic side. So for the remainder of Forsaken Superstar Interlude episodes, which is going to be about, I think, another 4 more past Eyes of Face Laws. I believe it's another 4 more. Those are going to take a lot longer, but in return, they're going to be of higher quality versus these little things I pump out every so often when I get the chance. Anyways, with that being said, John Doe is happily married to his wife, Jane Doe. They were noticeable opposites when it came to their personalities, however, they seemed to click like opposites of a magnet. John Doe was an outgoing person, enjoying socializing and even encouraged his wife to attend gatherings with him. Jane, on the other hand, usually kept to herself outside of her job, only really talking to her husband. Jane also had an intense ambition and drive for answers that often clouded her better judgment in certain situations, while her husband was the opposite, being easygoing and lacking ambition. At work, they both worked at Roblox headquarters, serving admins and assigned to test faulty code, although they served different roles. John Doe's easygoing personality had him given a simple desk job, while Jane Doe's ambition had her out on field missions. John Doe's lack of ambition and easygoing nature are what made him the perfect vessel for corruption. On March 18, 2017, under unknown circumstances, John Doe was suddenly corrupted by a parasite composed of faulty, defunct code from the early days of Roblox. As stated before, his lack of ambition is what drew the parasites at him. The parasite spread throughout his body, severely mutilating him, and while transforming him into a more monstrous state, it sustained his body, keeping him alive. The parasite sees John as its host, and refuses to let him die. It actively destroyed John Doe's mind and psyche, siphoning his own memories and identity for itself. This progression can be seen in his current milestone skins, which I will go over later. The corruption is permanent, as removing it will result in his death. The forced smile on his face is caused by the corruption attempting to revert his body back to the default dummy state. Ever since John Doe's corruption and disappearance, rumors have spread about what happened. Some believe Jane, his wife, did something to him. Others believe John Doe is coming back as a villain and plotting a takeover of Robloxia. Jane was easily the most afflicted person by everything, who isolated herself after the death of her husband. Builderman, meanwhile, was questioning why both of them went on leave for so long, blissfully unaware that John Doe was no longer himself anymore. How John and Jane entered the realm of Forsaken remains unknown, though Jane Doe entered the realm differently from the other survivors, finding herself in a place of scattered parts and memories, rather than her body physically dying to enter Forsaken. Now for the milestones, we'll begin with the legacy milestones first, and then move on to the current milestones afterwards. Both of them do show John Doe's progression and further loss of himself and his identity to the parasite. However, in my opinion, the current ones do a far better job at showing this progression. So for that, I'll only be making comments about how the progression of the corruption is affiliated with John Doe's descendants into losing himself with the current milestones. Like all my past videos, these descriptions are being ripped straight from the Forsaken fandom wiki, as I do for all my milestone sections. Alright, so we're going to begin with the legacy milestones. While Milestone 1 slightly desaturates John Doe's body, as well as letting the corruption spread further across his torso, hand, and legs, also making his skin slightly darker. Get used to the word desaturated, you're going to be hearing it a lot. While Milestone 2 desaturates John Doe even further and has the corruption cover more of his body, as well as granting him a crown very reminiscent of Black Iron Crown of Ponage. If you didn't know, crowns of Ponage are kind of present. Why did I say kind of present? They're present amongst two milestones. John Doe's old Milestone 2, and Shaletsky's current Milestone 3. Old Milestone 3 desaturates John Doe even further, again, has the corruption cover more of his body, again, and gains a bit of extra corruption on his shoulder, which presumably gives him more strength. He gets a remixed chase theme, as well as a custom kill animation in which he lifts the survivor over his head and splits them in half. Old Milestone 4 turns John Doe's entire body into an inky black, showing that the corruption has overcome his entire body. Some of the corruption in his torso appears as an inverted V-shaped drape, the lower portion being gray instead of black. His face now turns a bright red, much like his eye, alongside with keeping the chase theme and kill animation from Milestone 3. Now moving on to the current milestones. Milestone 1 makes John Doe wear clothes and glasses, specifically blue pants and a white button-up shirt with black buttons, as well as 2 pens in his shirt pocket. John Doe's left and right arm alongside his eye changes to have less corruption than his stock form. He bears what looks like a smile combined with a traumatized face. He also gains white slits in his eyes. This milestone shows the early stages of the defunct code that corrupts John Doe. This likely happened within like a week of when he was corrupted. That's probably when this milestone took place. That was like the night he came home with it. Given his render, it looks like it is the night he came home. Milestone 2 desaturates John Doe slightly. Here we go with the saturation again. And has the corruption cover more of his body. He has more corruption on his head, legs, and arms. And he no longer has what seemed to be a smile combined with a traumatized face, as he now has a simple, unnerving smile, likely forced, as well as being red on the corrupted side of his face. He also now wears what is most likely a brown vest. This milestone shows the mid-game stages of the infection as John Doe is losing himself more and more. That glint in his eyes is also gone. Milestone 3 desaturates John Doe even further and has the corruption cover more of his body. He now also wears the picture seen in the render of Milestone 2 on his face, now more worn out, as well as getting a tie. The corruption on his right arm now has eyes as well as a set of jaws, showing that the corruption is not only alive, but it also devours those he kills. Additionally, he gains a remixed chase theme as well as a custom kill animation in which he tosses the survivor onto his right arm before brutally smashing him onto the ground. This skin has custom spikes, covering them in papers. This milestone shows how dehumanizing the parasite really is, with John Doe being downright unrecognizable at this stage. Milestone 4 corrupts John Doe fully. Finally, we're done with the desaturation. Oh my god. Oh my god, finally. Finally! A tailcoat, a fully animated glowing beating heart, as well as brand new custom animations. I won't get into detail with those, you can just see them for yourself. The corruption in his right arm maintains the eyes and jaws from Milestone 3, albeit larger and more monstrous. The skin keeps the chase theme and kill animation from Milestone 3. And also custom spikes of creepy smiles on them apparently, but all I saw were eyes. So I think they forgot to change the wiki. This final milestone shows John Doe's total loss of humanity, with there being absolutely zero trace of who he used to be, besides his subconscious ongoing love for his wife. John Doe's got 2 passives and 3 actives at his disposal, being one of the only killers with 2 passives. I don't know why that's not a normal thing. John Doe's first passive is Natural Malevolence, which activates for the entire round. It's the title for the damaging trail that follows John Doe as he moves throughout the map. When a survivor steps in it, they're given Corrupted 2 for 3 seconds, taking a total of 7.5 damage. John Doe's second passive is Unstoppable, which activates whenever John Doe is stunned while using either Aerophore or Corrupt Energy. The old version of this was just him whenever he got stunned, it would activate rather than just using an ability. It shortens the stun time to only 2 seconds flat, and upon exiting his stun state, John Doe lets out a roaring sound as he gains speed 1 for 3 seconds, with every alive sentinel increasing the count by a second. So for example, there's 3 other sentinels alive, congratulations, he now has 6 seconds of speed 1. Now onto his active abilities. The first active ability I will be talking about are going to be his spikes, or also known as Corrupt Energy. Here's how it works. You stop moving, you play your arm in the ground, and however you aim, you aim a row of 27 spikes. Very simple, right? Not really, because you can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can hit people, you can cut people off, you can just throw it into a group of survivors and pray you kill somebody. I mean, hey, I don't judge how you use it, as long as you get kills with it. With every usage of Corrupt Energy, you can land up to 4 hits on every survivor per usage. Each spike deals 12 damage, meaning whether focused on one survivor or you hit multiple, and each survivor you hit can deal up to 48 damage if you landed 4 times. And the cooldown is abysmally low, so under a minute you could basically kill somebody with this if you can M1 to finish them off. Although I will warn you, getting hits with this is not consistent at all. You had to basically just play a fucking guessing game. However you use this move is totally up to you. Its versatility is what makes John Doe so fucking good. But it's not just the spikes that make him so damn rewarding to play. I'm going to go over his second ability, Digital Footprint. Think of him like little landmines. He stomps his foot like an angry little bastard. I had this written in the script. An angry little bastard, which generates this black sludge puddle thing. If a survivor steps in said puddle, not only do they take damage, but they're slowed. The damage total is around 20. And both parties have a visual of each other. And it gives you speed 1 for 10 seconds. 10 seconds of speed 1. Just because some guy doesn't know where the fuck he's going. These traps can force survivors into fighting either alternative paths or force them to attempt to juke around you if there are no other routes. You can place a max of 3 traps at once, each lasting basically indefinitely. Like, it's around like 3.5 minutes, unless they're used by a survivor. Each trap is indefinitely revealed to John Doe. But a killer wouldn't be a killer, minus Cool Kid, if you didn't have a real tracking ability. And John Doe's tracking ability works with his Unstoppable to work like a parry. His fucking tracking is a parry, if used right. And this ability is called Era 404. While being slowed to a standstill, he can see everyone's auras, no matter how far they are. And not only that, if used right before he's stunned, it counts as an unstoppable stun. Therefore, he not only counter a stun, but he not only gets everything from the stun, but it could be used for any stun. John Doe's abilities are what make him so fucking infamous, with him being especially feared in my early days, and around, like, what, exactly a year ago from today, I think? I believe so. He's only limited by the player's playstyle.